Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies for starting a couple of minutes late there. My name is Lt Col Darin Ninness, and this evening we're here for a presentation called Cohort Recruiting, a Blueprint for Retention. With me, I have Major Angela Bartow-Best and Captain Candice Serafin from the Peachtree City Falcon Field Squadron, Georgia Wing. So, ladies, please introduce yourselves.
My name is Angela Bartow-Best. I've been with Civil Air Patrol for about 2 years, and I've kind of been doing the cohort recruiting for almost that long.
And I'm Captain Candice Serafin. I joined Civil Air Patrol about 4 years ago, and I'm the Public Affairs Officer at our unit and also the Recruiting and Retention Officer. And live from Peachtree City, Georgia.
Indeed. Okay. So the reason we're here tonight basically is very recently Major General Smith, our national commander and CEO, was at the Southeast Region Conference and saw a presentation by Major Bartow-Best and Captain Serafin on cohort recruiting. And the general was rather taken by the presentation, and he feels that this is a best practice for our recruiting, that we should be embracing this style of recruiting and looking at ways that we can make this work around the country. So with the data that was in the presentation that I saw, I felt that it was important that we do this. So I reached out to the major and the captain and asked them to come on tonight to present to the rest of the country. So without further ado, Major Bartow-Best and Captain Serafin, please take it away.
Well, first of all, thank you, Lt Col Ninness, for having us, and we're really excited to present our results from just a year's worth of recruiting in our unit. And so this is the slide that show that we actually presented at the Southeast Region Conference about a month ago. So what is cohort recruiting, or what is cohort? Well, I really didn't understand that until I went to Lt Col Ninness's presentation back in Orlando at the National Conferences 2015. And I was actually there for the Public Affairs Officer Academy. And I ran across the seminar and I thought, well, what is cohort? And it just sounded so interesting. So I stepped in and I saw the seminar, saw the presentation, and the light bulb went on. And I got so excited. I brought it back to the unit, and here we are recruiting the cohort way. So cohort for me means like maybe a group or a team or a squadron, but it's really training a group of individuals. So that's my definition of cohort. And so this is what we meet in a hangar or out at the Peachtree City Falcon Field at the ATP Flight School, and they've allowed us to be in their hangar and in their offices, and this is what about 80 chairs look like on any given open house night. So this is how you can go from this to this, and we end up always with over 100 guests, families, siblings, people interested, and we have our presentation last about 2 hours when we have a break. So this is how we do it. It's a two-part process, and that's why Major Best and I think we just make a great team, because I take care of the marketing part and she takes care of the cohort training. And but we're always coordinating everything together. And so these are our top 10 marketing strategies. The first thing you need to do is plan the event, market at the event, get an email list out, do some advertising, get some print materials. You can get some of those from national headquarters. Posters, you can make a poster. And we've got some open house tools that we're going to show you. And you've got to have a sign-in sheet, because that's really the secret sauce to this whole thing, is to get those contacts. And then, of course, we have a breakout session during our open house, and we always follow up with our emails. Okay, so this is how we did it. We got together our calendars, and we know that there are certain things that happen in our wing. For example, we've got BCT. That always happens sometime in June. So we wanted to be sure that we got our new recruits all ready to go by encampment. So we thought maybe starting our cohort recruiting in February would be great, because we do use the Cadet Great Start program, or the guide, and that allows for 8 weeks of training. So that's going to fit really well. So we just set up our calendar. We normally have about 4 to 6 hard recruiting events, maybe an air show. We race across America, Memorial Day. Well, just check out what you're doing in your own community. And so we got those down. And then you're going to need some kind of professional signage. It's not really expensive to do that, and you can reuse them over and over again. So be sure you get some good quality products for that. And you can set up your recruiting booth. This is just what a typical recruiting tent looks like out on the air.
And this can be done anywhere that you guys end up going. We do World War II Heritage Days, and they allow us to set up a booth so that we can do our recruiting there as well. So not only are we helping the community, Wreaths Across America, we're helping the community, but we're also passing out flyers. We also have our signage so that they know who we are and that we are looking for new members.
And again, it's all about using your public affairs officer for branding. And so this is how we do it in our recruiting event, whether it's a booth or a tent. And we're going to use a tent or a recruiting booth, because you can actually collect your information there. And we always have a sign-up sheet. Make sure you get their emails and a phone number. And a really great idea is to use an iPad and let the parent enter their email address, and be sure you send them that email right then and there, so that if you get a bounce back, then you can correct it. And that way you've already have it recorded in your data.
So it's not enough just to pass out flyers. You want to start gathering kind of like a wait list, getting information from the parents and the cadets themselves, emails, so that when you get closer to your open house, and we'll talk about this later, is to be able to send out reminders, hey, you were interested back, in December, and we're getting ready to start our open house.
Okay, so make sure you get those contacts. And you want to advertise. So again, recruit your PAO, and they'll be happy to put out some advertisement for you. And these are some just ideas. You can put it in your local paper and use social media. That seems to be a really the best reach out for us, is that. And you can put it on your Squadron website, your Facebook, and send out your email list, and of course there are other flyers.
So on the social media, I just wanted to touch on that because, obviously that's pretty popular amongst the teens, and that's where they're going to see it. But some of the things you might want to consider, we use Facebook and Instagram, but on Facebook, not just on your personal, not just on your Squadron social media page, but we also send that event out to, we have a local city Facebook group that we're a part of, that we send out that media and say, hey, do you have kids from age 12 to 18? Are they interested in aerospace? Come join us and learn about Civil Air Patrol. Also homeschool groups. Our squadron is very heavy with homeschool cadets and parents, and so touching bases with some of those homeschool Facebook pages or Instagram pages may also help project.
Just ask any cadet; they know where to get the information.
Just as an aside to the advertising thing, I mean, we've had pretty decent luck with doing a little bit of paid Facebook advertising, where you see that little icon in the corner of a post that says "Boost this post." You click that, you can build demographics into that. You can say, I want to look at male and female, age 13 and up, from within 10 miles of a specific zip code. With interest in aviation, military, STEM, disaster preparedness, whatever. There's all kinds of things you can use, and that's a great targeted resource. In some units, I mean, I've accidentally spent $100 doing that, which was not funny. But you could spend $25 or $30 and probably pick yourself up, 1,500 or 2,000. eyeballs on your event or your post on your Facebook page.
That's a really good tip, and also to use those hashtag marks too in your Facebook, and that will lead you down to other paths as well. Okay, we ready? Okay, so flyers. Now this is what we do at either a parade and or a recruiting booth. And we always affix our open house date and time, and we stamp our squadron information on there. And this is how they're going to get the information to them. You don't want to hand them a flyer without any information on it. But in exchange for that flyer, I always get their contact information, especially at a recruiting booth.
So one of the key things here lately is we make sure that we already know when our next open house is, so that when they say, oh, when can we join, we can already tell them, okay, our next open house is 23, August. So they know how long they have to wait.
Right. And that gives them time to get on the website on gocivilairpatrol.com or go to our unit website or Facebook, and they can check us out and make sure that this is something that they want to do, and not just, join at a whim and then 8 weeks later they quit. So we want them to have the information so that they can make an informed decision about their commitments. So this is digital poster, and I designed this, and this is just great when you can send this via email. You can also print these out, use them for posters, put them up in your local community areas. And it's just a great way to, post this on social media, and it's just a great way to get information out as well. So use what you've got. Another part of our open house tools, we use the Cap history video. Now you can do the short or the long version, depends on what you want to do. And since I'm the squadron PAO, I'm always taking pictures. And so I put together a slideshow at the end of the year review, and it's always good to showcase what your squadron does and not what someone else's squadron does. You want to advertise what you do, and always put out a refreshment table. It can be a quick trip to the wholesale warehouses to pick up a big old couple flats of water and a big tray of cookies, and you're good to go. And if you've got any awards, put those out. Put your STEM kits out. And the cadets, we engage our very young cadets as greeters because we want to engage them in part of being the squadron and leadership opportunities. And it's great that we can engage the cadets in these positions. Gives them a sense of belonging. And we always have our opening formation. And it's pretty impressive when you see about 100 cadets out on the tarmac, and they just look really great. And if you've got an airplane and you can put it out for static display, that's great. If you don't, maybe you can call a squadron. Maybe they'll fly one in for you. Use your resources. If you don't have a static, if you don't have an airplane to put on static display, that's okay. Use a trifold poster. You can make one, showcase the 3 missions on there, and put some pictures of what you do in your squadron, and have an iPad handy for folks to sign in. And we have a new member handout, and I just want to, and that was a page, and it was just a few contact, information and who you can contact for questions and things like that. But Lt Col Ninness has a video out on a new member packet, and it's pretty awesome. So sometime maybe y'all should check that out. And this is what our refreshment table looks like. See, it doesn't have to be anything really fancy. It's just you want to showcase your unit. And this is the trifold poster that I was talking about. And you can see down there a calendar, a sign-up sheet. There's an iPad, and just get ready. Just some more information there.
And make sure with the sign-in, that's really, really important, because you want to make sure that you touch bases with these people, because if you just have them show up at open house, they may or may not come back for the next one. But if you send out an email saying, hey, we know we gave you a lot of information, here's some more information about it. If you have any questions, this is who you contact. And oh, by the way, we're going to have another meeting next week. We'd love to have you come and check us out some more.
And also have your prospective member to send emails to your squadron recruiter. You can, like I said, use the iPad, and that way you do have their contact information already. It makes it easier for you to collect those emails because you're going to be sending out 100 of them or more. And also confirms that they do have a valid email address. Now, part of our marketing too is using the breakout, and you can use your STEM activities for this. It creates team building, and while the prospective cadets are working with the other cadets, this gives you a chance to talk to the parents, and they can ask any questions, and they can see what they're, and how engaged their cadets really are. And of course, during all of this time, I just want you all to know that our unit is still operating. We are still having our senior meetings and in another room, and we've got our cadets with their own activities. And because what we do is we'll pull maybe, what do you think, Major Best, about 10 cadets, 10 people 10. To actually run the open house. So it doesn't require the entire squadron to shut down and focus on open house. So you can continue your training, and it's really good that you do that anyway, because it does give new members seeing what you're really doing. And so this is hot. You got to follow up, and you email your contacts within 1 week after your event, whether it's an open house or it's a recruiting event. You've got to let them know that they are important and that you would like for them to come and check your squadron out. And do send these reminders frequently, because we are very busy people these days, and it doesn't hurt to send out reminders. And we always send out reminders the day before our open house. So I'm going to turn the rest of the presentation over to Major Best, because now that we've got them in the hangar, she takes over and she does the training. So take it away, Major Best.
Okay. So, once you get them in for open house, you really should already be ready with your training schedule. And of course, that's going to take several months ahead of time to plan that and have that ready. And if you're going from, we started, when I took over this program and started the cohort, we originally were a trickle-in squadron. And when I first took over our pre-flight, it was mass chaos every single night. I had no idea which cadets I was going to have, what they were going to need. Some needed leadership tests, some needed drill tests, some needed board of reviews, some needed their wingman course. And so it was chaos. And I would have, 20 to 30 cadets sometimes in pre-flight. Now some cadets would run through it very quickly. They were very motivated. We'd get it all done on their own within a couple of months. And then some we had some that were in there for a year. And to me, that just didn't make any sense. And I had some prior experience with cohort. And so when they approached me about changing from trickle-in to cohort recruiting, I was excited. I had already done this before. It wasn't anything new to me, and I knew it would work. So one of the first things that we had to do, obviously, is you've got to convince the key people that this is important. So luckily for me, the squadron commander was the one who approached me asking me whether or not I could do this. So I already had the squadron commander on board, and that's going to be key. Get the squadron commander on board. If you're not the deputy commander for cadets, you want to get them on board, and you need to make sure that they understand why it's important to change from the trickle-in to the the cohort. This is Major General Smith. This is kind of where he wants us to go. So you already have somebody vying for this program. So we just need to get the rest of y'all on board for this. Once you have the team, the head people on board, then you need to make sure that you've got at least one senior member who really wants to do this, and I would say at least one cadet who really wants to do this as well. Now, depending on how big your squadron is, you may need more. We were already a fairly large squadron, so we actually had an entire flight. So we had a flight commander, a flight a flight sergeant, and then we also had 3 element leaders to help with that. So when you get your team together, you want to look over the Great Start program, and you're going to set out you're going to figure out your calendar. You want to look at your calendar. When do you want to start your cohort? And once your cohort starts, you're pretty much starting your Great Start right then and there. Week 1, week 2, week 3, and on. This was our first first group.
And that is Major Best right there.
How do you go from trickle-in to cohort? Because we had to finish getting our trickle-in cadets. We needed to get them finished. And that wasn't an easy task because we'd already been working with some of them for 3, 4, 5 months. So basically we told them, we're going to start cohort on this date. And if you're not finished with all your pre-flight stuff, then we're going to just roll you into the cohort. Because obviously you need that group, that camaraderie. And that's probably key to cohort recruiting and the difference between trickle-in and cohort is in trickle-in, each cadet is working kind of on their own, kind of at their own pace. And they really don't have that bond. They're not building the strong friendships. Whereas in the cohort, they're all working at the same pace. They all know that they are going to graduate and promote at the same time. And so they help each other out. The kids that may normally straggle a little bit, they're more motivated to get the things that they need to get done so that they can all graduate on time. So if they didn't have their stuff completed, then we just rolled them right into the cohort, and they started with week 1 in the cohort training. Again, we use the Great Start program. If you haven't had a chance to look over this, you really should. It pretty much breaks down every single week and what you should be teaching and how to teach it, how to teach drill, the wingman course, customs and courtesies. And we start them, even though they have to have their 3 meetings, we start them right off on day 1, essentially. We talk about, wearing the uniform, getting the haircuts, wearing, the customs and courtesies. And so they know that what they're getting themselves into. Like I said, so this is just a sample, and this is something that we plan out ahead of time. We look at our squadron calendar, see what events are coming up, and make sure that we can accommodate. We try to mimic, follow along with whatever the squadron's doing. For instance, if we are doing it's PT night, then that's probably the night that we're going to do our cohorts health and fitness zone test. If it's leadership, then that's probably the night we're going to do our leadership 1 course, and so forth. And then we make promotion a big, big deal. I mean, we graduated 27 cadets. Now, granted, they will promote in e-services whenever they accomplish all their tasks. But we tell them ahead of time, this is graduation. You should be able to accomplish, giving a couple extra weeks in there for somebody who might miss a week. And also making sure they have their uniforms. But we make it a big deal. We let parents know, invite your family, invite your friends, so that they can see what a great accomplishment this was. And we had one that I really didn't think we brought enough cake, because we had well over 100 family members showing up for our cadets promoting.
Yeah, and I just want y'all know that we started out with 8 cohorts our first time out of the gate. But we rolled over and ended up with 17 cohorts graduating. And that was in January of 2017. And I want y'all to hang in there with us, because we're going to show you some awesome data, okay? You ready?
Yep.
Okay.
And then basically, once you got the plan, you just need to implement it. Take a deep breath and just get started. I know that can be scary, but each time you do this, you're going to look back and you're going to go, okay, what did we do well? And what can we do better? And each time it's going to be easier and easier, because the program's already set. This is just something that I use to help keep track. Like I said, sometimes we will have over 40 cadets that actually show up. So I put them in this little tracking file, and to make sure that they have met all the requirements, the 3 visits, that I've checked to see what their date of birth, that I've met a parent, that they have an actual application in. Once the application is approved, then I drop them down into the cadet portion, and that helps me to keep track of, whether or not they've met all the elements that they need to in order to promote. Now, at our squadron, we also do not fully graduate them into the main squadron until they've also finished their GES, their aircraft ground handling, and their wing runner. And that's so that once they get to their main squadron in their flight, that their leaders know that they can participate in any activity that the squadron wants to have them participate in.
So again, follow up, email your contacts within 1 week after the event, send reminders frequently, and do this before open house. I know this is a repeated slide. It's because it's vital. So Angela, Major Best, we have fun. Would you like to tell them exactly how many times we are actually having open enrollment?
So this is one of the hardest things. At first, the thought of only doing maybe cohort a quarter, which was originally what we thought we could do, was a little scary because, you've got those cadets that are their parents that want to join right then and there. They don't want to wait, they want to join. But we had to decide, what to do. And we originally decided to do 1 per quarter, which ended up being only 3 for the year. But now we're only doing 2 a year because we get so many and that show up. And in order to really be efficient in what we do and make sure that we get good quality cadets, we've dropped down to 2 cohorts per year.
We have open enrollment twice a year, and you can see by this chart where we hit our open house. Now, okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. And we started off with 82 cadets in January of 17. Now, this is our first full year of cohort recruiting. We ended up with 105 cadets with a 28% increase. Now, I know some of y'all are wondering, why is it dipping down so much in some of the areas? It's because those, maybe some of those have graduated, but what we were doing, we're actually tracking. If you remember, you go back to that sheet that she had that she was tracking the cadets. These cadets dropped off because they were not in the original cohort. They were in the trickle-in. Okay, so we're going to go to another stat. So that black arrow is where we actually started our cohort recruiting, was in January of 17. So the next slide, you'll see that when I joined Civil Air Patrol in March of 2014, you can see where we flatlined for 2 years. We did have our first open house following an air show, but we were still using the trickle-in method. And so it took us a little while to figure out, do we want to implement this cohort recruiting method? So we got our plan together and we implemented that plan of January of 2017. So you can see where we've had our open houses, and you can see the increase in cadets. Now this slide is another one about the blue indicates what we have recruited. The red is what we have retained. So you can see in January of 17, we recruited 8 cohorts. We graduated, and we've got, I think 1 dropped off. And so, but you can see the retention, and we don't have cohort 17C because that was in September, and we don't have that year yet because this is July. So next slide is indicating the blue is 2017 and the red is let me go back. The blue is 2016, the red is 2017, and the green is our cohort. Now the black lines indicate the minimums that you have to meet the quality cadet unit qualifications. So you can see the increase that we've had not only in retention, but how well we're doing across the board in all the quality cadet unit elements. Now, the first one that you see is growth. Well, right now we're not really concerned with growth because remember, this is all about retention. Yes, we're doing cohort recruiting, but it is a blueprint for retention. And this is our squadron blueprint. This is what we have done the last year and well, up to and a half.
And one of the things you can't really see on this list per se is if you'd come to one of our meetings in 2016 or even early 2017, you'd probably only see maybe 30, 40 cadets at our meetings every week, even though we had, I don't know, 70 or 80 people on the roster. Well, now we have 91 cadets on our roster, and I just went through our list to see how many come regularly, and we have 76 cadets that come almost every single week. So again, this is not just about the numbers on your roster. It is about how much of a quality squadron cadet unit that you have, because they are coming, they want to promote, they want that leadership experience. I don't have enough people, enough weekends in the year to do all the things that our cadets are organizing and want to take part in, because these are cadets that are growing up in that cohort over the last year who have just hit the road running, and they see how organized we are and how much we can accomplish. So again, it's not just about your numbers on your roster. It's about the overall well-being of your squadron.
Right. And one of the benefits of cohort recruiting is you're not tasking your staff all the time.
Right.
We only do this twice a year now. So our squadron organizes for 1 month because we block off 1 month because, they have to come 3 times, right? So you've got open houses, 1 visit, and then we offer 3 more weeks for them to attend because, they've got to adjust their schedule. Some people can't come. Maybe they're on vacation or whatever. But we close open enrollment after that 4th week. And so everybody knows what they're doing. The cadets that prior to joining, they have a lot of time to take a look at what Civil Air Patrol has to offer, and they end up staying. And then you think, well, how do you guys recruit only twice a year or have open enrollment?
How do you turn cadets away? I mean, that's probably the hardest thing is how do you have a cadet that's ready to join right this minute? How, especially if you're kind of struggling and wanting to build your unit, how do you turn them away and say, no, we're not accepting applications right now? Well, it's no different than a sports team. I mean, sports teams don't take on new players in the middle of the season. And so the other thing is we're also making sure that these cadets, because they had to wait, they really want to be a part of this organization. They are willing to wait an extra couple of months and not get that instant gratification to join. And we know that these cadets are the ones that are really serious about it versus the one that's like, well, I want to join today, but you know what? I'm done with it in a month.
Angela, it's a funny thing. You mentioned, sorry, I'm getting a little feedback here. You guys mentioned that, if somebody comes in, they want to join right now. Somebody had just asked the question, and I was answering that same thing. I said, do you sign up for Little League in the 8th week of the season? And you said, oh, hey, sports teams. And
right.
That's a great thing. And
that's
the thing that's hard for people to get over is you're not necessarily turning people away. You're getting their contact information. You're getting their information. You're staying in contact with them, but the training is channelized in such a way that they're going to get the best possible training experience. It's going to lead to them getting trained in a uniform, into the squadron, introduced to Civil Air Patrol in a real organized way.
And we found that what we're doing makes us look really professional. That makes us look really organized. And our parents come in and they think, boy, this squadron has got it going on.
Absolutely.
And they think that they're going to spend, because they can take their time and their talent and their money and they can go somewhere else. And so they're investing in a time valued and a quality program because we are now organized.
And just from that, we also have noticed that we have seen an increase in parents joining as well to help with the cadet program. Where in the past, we really did struggle with having enough senior members who were willing to work with the cadets, and so even that has increased for us. So it really has worked well for us.
So if you want to only have 4 to 6 recruiting events a year and have open enrollment twice a year, cohort recruiting is for your unit. And I just want you all to know that I am not a marketing expert. Everything I've learned, I have learned in Civil Air Patrol. And we just thought, well, what do we have to lose? Why not try it? And that's exactly what we did. And we figured it out, and I know y'all can do it too.
Good luck.
That was awesome. I have to echo that. Some years ago, my unit started doing cohort recruiting at around 2001, 2002. In that time frame, we sort of fell backwards into it. In that we had a number of cadets that had trickled in over a period of time. From like say August to December, we had maybe 8 cadets that had kind of come in every couple of weeks, and we were spending more time chasing the training level of those cadets. And of course, some of them were faster than others. They tended to progress a little bit better than the others. So I literally had a young man come to me. It was I don't know, second week of December, I guess. And he was in tears, and he says, "Sir, I don't understand. Why haven't I been promoted yet?" And one of the cadets who had come in, say in October, had just gotten promoted that night or the week before or something like that. And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, sir, I've been here since August." And I looked at him and I was like, "Oh, like we've failed this young man." And I felt really bad because here's this young man in tears in front of me, And I looked at my deputy commander for cadets and I said, "Hey," I said, "look, we're having an open house the 20th of January. If somebody comes in today, tomorrow, next week, first week of January, can we just give them a flyer and tell them to come back?" And my deputy commander for cadets, you'd have thought I had suggested that, like, he hurt somebody. I mean, he looked at me like, well, you can't do that. And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, you can't tell them to come back." And well, we're going to have an open house in January. Come on, this is getting crazy. I mean, every couple of weeks, the personnel officer was doing new membership, processing. We were having every couple of weeks we were sitting our membership board for new members. The training was at multiple different levels, so nobody was at the same sort of level, and it was crazy. We couldn't keep track of it, and so I said, "Look, let's just do this. If somebody comes in, we'll give them a flyer, say, hey, look, this is what Civil Air Patrol is. Give them the nickel tour, and then they can come back. They can come back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or however far off it was like a month." Well, that was sort of the genesis of that, and unfortunately, my deputy commander for cadets never agreed with that to the point where he really bought the whole concept. So sad to say, he wound up leaving the organization, and it wasn't entirely over that. He had some job issues and stuff. Anyway, but my point is that some people are just going to go, but that's not the way we've always done it. Some units are so accustomed to when a person walks in the door, they wrap themselves around their legs like, "Please don't go, and it's almost sad, It's like you don't want to. I'm going out of focus there. It's almost sad. You don't want to have a unit look that way. So it's important that you use these opportunities to put the most professional, most organized foot forward.
We do, and we also we have people come in and want to check us out, and of course, guess what we have? We have a flyer ready for them. We have their contact information, and when it comes time to roll around for open house, we send out a reminder for them. As a matter of fact, we've got some coming in that couldn't join in February, and I just sent her an email yesterday announcing our open house on the 23rd.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie. We the last cohort that we did, we had a couple of families that missed the deadline because we do the open enrollment for 4 weeks. If they have not had their first visit within those 4 weeks, then they have to wait until the next cohort. And so we had a couple of families that showed up. Actually, it was like 3 families that showed up the very next day, next week after we closed enrollment. And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, because that time I already had 28 cadets." I was like, "Woo, that's already a lot." And so we told them, well, you're going to have to wait until February to join. And they were upset. And but you know what? I explained to them that it's no different than boot camp. Boot camp does it the same way. You can't just join on whatever day you want to join. And sports teams, I mean, there's a lot of organizations that require you to wait. But guess what? They all came back in February. So it was important enough for them to be a part of this organization. They still came back. Mm-hmm. So we didn't lose them.
That's an important point. You know, it's a good, and I hate to say it also, that it is a bit of a filter for what I call the tire kickers. Right. You know, somebody comes in, they go, oh yeah, I'm looking for something for my son to do. That's great. So then and then the person, you know, the kid, I hate to say kid, the prospective cadet joins, and he's there like 3 or 4 weeks, and he goes, you know, not really what I was into, never mind, and disappears. And now you've got a retention loss at the end of that young man's year of membership. So that's something that's important. You know, the people that will come back really do tend to commit, and that's the important thing, because they're going to be with you for not just 1 year, but 2 or 3 or 4 years.
Well, yes, and you can see our numbers right here, which I have to give a shout out to our squadron commander, David Serafin. He pulled these numbers because he had them. You know, he's the commander, and he put this graph together to show how we are doing. As a matter of fact, that third chart here, that the Wright brothers, we only got three more cadets that need to get the Wright brothers, and then we'll hit that mark. So the training has been outstanding. The cadets are getting the training they need. They're excited. They want to show up because we offer them value.
Absolutely. And they make friends right away too. Like I said, the trickle-in, you know, they seem to be individualized in the trickle-in. They're on their own program. They're only out to get what they need to get done and move on. So the friendships aren't being built as well as the cohort. In the cohort, they are building those bonds very early on. And so they don't want to disappoint each other, and they really encourage each other. And even after, like I said, once they go to the main squadron, I mean, they continue to promote and encourage each other to promote with each other. So we're not seeing the stagnation that as soon as they get their airmen, they're done for another year. They're good at airmen for a year. I mean, we're seeing them continue to promote and get to the Wright brothers much quicker than we had seen in the past.
I actually saw that a few years ago. I was watching, some of my cadet staff were standing around, maybe the NCOs, and one of them said to the other, they were just standing there, and one of them said, well, you know, that's what you get because you were fall of 14. And the other one says, yeah, fall of 14 was way better than spring of 15 or something like that. And I'm like, I'm looking at these guys going, what are you saying? And literally there was this little competitive thing. First off, they were this little family group of a cohort. So their particular class was, you know, like, don't mess with my buddy because he's my basic training buddy.
Right.
And then between the cohorts, they were competitive as well. And it was like, that was completely unexpected from my standpoint. I had no idea that was even going on. And they literally identified with their cohort group as well as the larger squadron. And it boggled my mind. I was like, how can I get more of this?
Yeah.
Well, we're excited to be here. Cohort works for us. And again, it can work for any squadron. Hello.
Oh, sorry about that. I put you guys on mute so that it wouldn't switch over. So I was going to share a picture. You know, we've got some graphs and things like that, but I'm going to share a picture that I've got from my unit that really explains, you know, and kind of shows how we do it. And once you see this, everybody's going to go, wow. This is the basic training graduation for my squadron in December of 2017. So this is our last fall cohort. So we recruited 19 new cadets. Of those 19 new cadets, 13 of those cadets were female cadets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what we were doing.
Well, that's something that we've noticed too, that our females, we're actually increasing in the amount of females that we have as well. So.
Well, I think part of what in this particular instance helped us is my cadet commander, female, cadet deputy commander, female, the young lady on the left there, the NCO, one of the basic training NCOs, female. So immediately they're seeing a number of female cadets in leadership positions in the organization, and they immediately go, well, I can do that too. So why not?
Right.
So that's sort of, you know, that picture just, and I've got several pictures. Every time we do a basic training graduation, with the exception of spring of 2016, which was, or maybe it was 17, where we recruited 4 cadets, and it was like, bad timing around school vacation. But you know, almost every one of our basic training graduations, I mean, one time was 22 cadets. You know, it's amazing. We tend to take on and graduate anywhere between 12 and 20 cadets at a crack.
Okay, we've got, these are our numbers. First time out is 8. We rolled over those other ones, which we graduated 17 for our first cohort. Our next cohort was 21 graduates, 27 graduates, and 20. That was 20 of this year. And I mean, the numbers don't lie. And you only have to have open enrollment twice a year. And I'm still blown away by open enrollment only twice a year. And we're getting these results, and we're getting these numbers. Exactly.
Yeah, no, and again, that's the thing that really, I mean, in looking at the comments here tonight, everybody who's been commenting, you know, one of the things is, you mean, you know, if they come in after open enrollment, they have to come in at another time? Yep.
But they need to get their email.
Right. The
information and the cadets' information, and then email them back within a week saying, hey, thanks for coming to visit. But as it gets closer, send another email and say, hey, you were interested in Civil Air Patrol. We're having our open house. Remember, please come. Right. And they show up.
Right. That's actually absolutely right. And, you know, you build that pipeline of recruits over that period of time. So you're not having people coming in all the time, and you know, with trickle-in recruiting, you know, your personnel officer is having to process membership paperwork. Your commander is having to verify their I-9 documentation. Your membership board is you know, reviewing their application and talking to them. You know, when we were doing trickle-ins and all those things, it seemed like my personnel officer's hair was on fire, and she was just running in a circle, and it was crazy. And now we hand out the membership packets on open house night. They come back, you know, we start training. We actually start my squadron, a little different, but similar. We start our training the week after open house night, but that's how we do it. But, you know, and then 3 weeks into it, 3 weeks later, boom, in processing night, where everybody turns in their paperwork on the same night. They get measured for uniforms. They meet with the membership board. We take their picture for e-services. Let me think what else we do. Yeah, that's it. But we do it all in one night. So it's one and done.
Right. Well, that's pretty similar to what we're doing. Open house, and then the second meeting, the cadets are already working with, or the prospective cadets are already working with the cadets. And I take the parents in to introduce them to e-services, because, you know, as we all know, e-services can be a little tricky to navigate. And that gives me another opportunity to recruit the parents. And then the third week, we've got making sure that they've got their applications, and fourth week,
just any stragglers.
Any stragglers that come in.
Absolutely. And that's actually, you know, that's a great way to do it. And part of this is there's a myriad of different ways you can do it. You don't have to do it the same way my unit does it. You don't actually have to do it. I mean, clearly you guys don't do it exactly like my squadron does it, yet it works like a champ. So the big thing is, for units that are considering this, is tailor it to your unit circumstances. You know, the cohort aspect is, yes, we channelize it. We do a dog and pony show. with an open house and then the new membership period and the in-processing and that sort of thing. But the training is the key. Everybody is on the same week of training at the same time. What I've really considered doing, and I've really thought hard about wanting to do this, is maybe going away from an open house type model and continuing on with the pipeline model and sort of building, for lack of a better term, and again, this is just off the top of my head, I haven't really diagrammed this out, but going to like a ship date kind of model, kind of like the Air Force has. So this is the ship date that you go to basic training. So, if you come in and you're interested, okay, well, we're going to start a new cohort on the 30th. So great. Here's a membership packet, start looking it over, come back next week. We'll talk about filling it out, that kind of thing. You could do it that way too. I mean, there's a lot of different options, and it's the important thing is what works for your unit's, situation. So let me see if there's any other questions here. So no. Somebody asked if we send the photo in with their membership application or save it to upload once they're approved. We save it to upload once they're approved. Yeah. So, and they do have 3 weeks before the membership board. If they come to the open house, then there's week 0, what we call week 0. And then there's week 1, which is the second week, the second physical training week. And then the open house night, or correction, in processing night is now week 3, which is they've been to 1, 2, 3 meetings, and they can turn in their membership. So that's how we do it. And then we sit them in front of, now, if you've been paying attention, some people don't. Membership boards technically aren't required for cadets anymore. However, we've been doing them for so long that we just it's part of the process. We just keep on trucking because we use membership boards as an expectation setting session for the prospective cadet. I don't think we've ever sat a prospective cadet in front of a membership board and actually turned them down. But we sit them down and say, do you understand what you're getting into? Do you have any questions for us? We ask them some questions. I see here you're in band and soccer and you have guitar lessons every other Tuesday night, and you seem oversubscribed. Are you sure you're able to do this? That kind of thing.
Right. We're actually going to implement that this time around because we've noticed the same thing, that we get a few cadets who all of a sudden they're already joined, and then a couple weeks later they stop coming. I get an email from the parents that says, oh, their grades aren't where they're supposed to be, or they just don't want to do it anymore for whatever reason.
Yep. Yeah.
Their obligation. So we actually found a questionnaire, I guess at the Southeast Region Conference. Somebody had a questionnaire kind of thing. We're planning on implementing that, basically what you're saying, and that's kind of do a quick interview with the parents and the cadet saying, hey, this is what we expect. The other thing I find is a lot of cadets don't want to join because they don't want to cut their hair. We really struggle with the grooming and the getting the uniforms and stuff because we don't have all the uniforms, so they do have to purchase some of it. But they struggle with some of that concept. And so I think that's part of it too, is making sure that they truly understand that we want them to do this for an entire year. And so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, exactly. We had a couple of questions. One of them was, once basic training is done, do you move them out all to the same flight or spread them out between other flights? I can tell you that I know in my squadron, we spread them out. Once you hit graduation, actually, there's this whole thing where, we call the cadet's name, Cadet Smith, Alpha Flight, Cadet Jones, Bravo Flight, Cadet, Thomas, Alpha Flight, Cadet Andrews, Bravo Flight, etc. And they go back and forth. So we split them up and take them out of their comfort zone. Interestingly, they're still there in that flight with members of their cohort, but now they're in a new cohort.
Yeah, we do the same thing. They don't all end up in one flight. They're spread out. But again, like you said, because we have so many, they will find that they have at least 1 or 2 other cadets that they've been working with.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not as scary, but you're right. It does take them out of their comfort zone.
Yep, absolutely.
And what also happens too is it provides more leadership opportunities for our cadets. How many flights have we added, Major Best?
We actually, we are at 4 regular, well, we have 3 regular flights now. So we have Alpha Bravo Delta, Charlie flight is our training flight. And now we also have X-ray flight, which is our color guard, and our competition team. So we have technically 5.
So that provides more leadership opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what? When you give them leadership opportunities, they stick around.
They do. They want more than just to stand in a flight and follow. They want to learn how to lead.
Yeah, I mean, this is an important thing that just recently, I think I related this to you, Captain Serafin, but I had a young man and his dad were members, and you know, the young man, he hadn't advanced very quickly, and he was maybe in 2 years or so, and he was an airman first class. And he said, I do the same thing all the time. I don't understand. And I'm like, well, you do the same thing all the time because you're an airman first class and you have been for a while. And, you know, that's sort of, you're going to see the same subjects all the time. As new airmen first class come along, you're going to see the same subjects that they saw because you're an airman first class. You know, as you progress and as you move forward and as you assume leadership roles, you're going to see new things. You're going to do new things. You're going to experience new things. And that's what keeps the organization and keeps things fresh for you.
But I think that's what's also important about the cohort is if they see their cohort buddies advancing,
yes,
that's going to motivate them. They don't want to be left behind.
Yes, absolutely.
That a couple of buddies will move up and rank a couple times, and they're like, "Whoa, I got to catch up." So
and
they start catching back up.
Another thing to think about is this also gives you an opportunity to spot, or you know, the other ones will kind of notice, hey, you know, Tommy over there, he's still an airman first, and we're all staff sergeants. Right. We need to give Tommy a hand. So they go to Tommy, and it's not even like somebody from above says, hey, go help Tommy out. They all just kind of go over there and go, hey, are you having a problem? Oh yeah, I'm having a problem passing the leadership test. The next thing you know, the little cohort group goes and just gloms onto that guy and helps him through, just like they did in basic training. Crazy. So in any event, well, I don't want to cut off questions or things like that, but it is almost 9 o'clock, and I do want to keep this to as close to an hour as possible. I don't like these things to run too long. So in any event, I appreciate everybody. We had up to 32 people watching live tonight, which was a pretty cool thing. So of course, you'll be able to see this again if you're watching still and you think that there's somebody out there who can enjoy this presentation, share the YouTube link with them. You know, they can watch the video at their leisure while they're driving to work on their Bluetooth or something like that. They can listen to the audio. So to Major Bartow-Best and Captain Serafin, I really appreciate you both being here tonight. Fantastic presentation, really opened things up for a lot of people, and I really appreciate you agreeing to do this.
Well, you are so welcome, and y'all check us out on our Facebook. You can see more of what we're doing if you want to see what a cohort recruiting group looks like.
There you go. Peachtree Falcon Field Squadron in Georgia Wing. So, all right, everybody, thanks very much for being with us tonight, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month for our next webinar. Thanks.
Thanks, Colonel.